swept under the carpet in the hospital. They try to keep you alive from utter desperation. They won't know the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody wants to be in church forever. under the carpet. In the hospital, they try to keep you alive from utter desperation. They won't know the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlife. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody in church forever.
That's good.
Who was the guy underneath that mask? Well, it was no one other than Clint Russell of the Liberty Lockdown podcast when he still lived in California. You sure did come a long way, you dirty dog.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks.
Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Luke Radowski here of thebestpoliticalshow.com. As of course, we are going to be going live for the next 2 hours discussing all the latest and craziest news happening and developing right now. As of course, there's a lot of things happening in New York City with Donald Trump, as well as a very outspoken Elon Musk that just took to Twitter and is blasting illegal immigration, which some people tie to a huge increase of crime. There's also a lot of other stories that we will not be able to discuss here on this particular platform, and then we'll be going to greener pastures and to platforms that actually allow free speech, as there's some people even talking about UFOs in Ukraine. What's really going on here? Well, stay tuned for the next 2 hours, and we're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more. And in the meantime, as of course you guys are in the beginning of this broadcast, share it with your friends and family members. It is more imperative than ever, as of course we are here as an independent media organization for so long, mainly because of your help and participation. Trust me, the people over at Google, Mr. Eric Schmidt and others, don't really like us. And the only real way to get our message across is for you guys to be active, to be engaged, and to share this broadcast, which really does mean a lot to us. You guys get to also participate in the conversation. And one simple and easy way for you guys to do that is to go to lukeunfiltered.com, as our producer will now be putting that link in the chat room so you guys could check it out. You guys could sign up, and for less than $8 a month, you guys get the ability to call into the show and ask us whatever questions you want when, of course, we move over to another platform. That conversation is very interesting because we don't screen questions. We don't tell you what you could say or can't say, as we're going to be on a free speech platform that allows you to do whatever you want, and we definitely encourage you to do that. Yesterday's caller was pretty awesome and was right on the money, especially asking a very good question that started some very interesting conversations. You could be that person right now just by simply going over to lukeunfiltered.com. As members also get an in real life meetup this Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where Clint will be jumping out of a cake in a bikini with baby oil all over him, just for your I guess viewing pleasure and enjoyment, if I guess you'd call that. As of course, we're also going to be reading your super chats, your Rumble rants, and of course, we also have mysuperchats.com activated, where your super chats actually get to show up on screen. Mysuperchat.com is the website. It's also down in the description below, and of course, when you use that, we get, of course, 3% of a service charge, not 30% like we do on YouTube Super Chats. So check out mysuperchats.com, as, of course, joining us for this very interesting, crazy conversation that will definitely be all over the place is Mike Harlow. Mike, for the people who don't know you, how would you introduce yourself?
Hey, my name's Jake. First of all, I'm missing you jumping out of a cake.
I know, dude. Saturday.
I should have changed my train back.
Extend your trip. It's going to be worth it. Or not. I don't know.
It'll be worth it. Yeah, my name's Mike. I have a YouTube channel. It's just my name, Mike Harlow. I'm on the Twitter at not Mike Harlow. I guess now it identifies as X, but I kind of refuse to call it that.
I know. I like to say Twitter too. It just
feels better.
It feels way better.
Twix.
You feel dirtier saying X. Clint feels dirty all the time. Clint, how are you?
I'm just got out of the shower. Still feel filthy. Clint Russell, host of Liberty Lockdown, co-host of Tower Gang. Don't watch that. Definitely watch Liberty Lockdown, though. I dropped a deep dive last night that was very sad. As you guys know, I am currently suspended from the YouTube. So you got to find me over on Rumble. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere else. And while you're subscribing to Liberty Lockdown, please pick up your phone and also subscribe to The Best Political Show, where you can find the RSS version of our show and make sure you never miss an episode. We got Steph on the buttons.
I'm going to get like a little chocolate cake. I'm like, Clint, you got to jump out of this. Let's see what you could do here. As of course, Atlas is also joining us here for this conversation. And so is Stephanie, that we're going to be hearing about her DMs as she invited you, the very loving, generous general public, to DM her last night.
That had to have been a nightmare.
So Stephanie's going to be telling us about this later on in the broadcast when we're on Rumble. Right, Steph?
Oh, yeah. I'd love to share the insights.
Oh, I want to hear about this.
Steph WRC on X, Steph, WeAreChange on Instagram, ready to push buttons.
All right, let's just get right into it. As of course, the first story that we have here is Letitia James going on Twitter and taunting Donald Trump, updating how much money he owes the city. As of course, he was just told to pay $355 million in a fraud suit. As every day there is interest that builds up on that. As of course, the New York City Justice Department and the jury that they have available for Donald Trump, let's just be honest here, is a little bit biased here. As of course, the larger point that I'm trying to make here was actually made by ALX on Twitter, who said, while New York is waging lawfare against Donald Trump, they're releasing violent illegal aliens into our streets. And that's exactly what's happening. As of course, we have ICE statements, we have documents, we have recorded incidences of many violent criminals who committed very violent actions and then literally released to the general public within hours. What in the world is going on here? Because if you're living in New York City, Mike, I know you live there. I lived there before. If you defend yourself, if you stand up for yourself, you're going to jail. You're going to be fully prosecuted. If you're Donald Trump, if you're his lawyers, if you're associated with him, you get caught up in something, you're going to jail. But illegal alien? I mean, why not everyone just identify as an illegal alien from now on if that's the treatment that you're going to be getting here?
You'd be better off. You'd get more rights. Whatever happened to them not wanting to have the appearance of bias, or there's no pretense anymore of them trying to be even-handed or unbiased in any way.
It's really disturbing. It's so obviously political persecution, and I have to repeat this every time I defend Donald Trump. I didn't vote for the guy either time. Never voted for the dude. But it doesn't change the fact that wrong is wrong, and the guy is obviously being, I think he's being aggressed upon. They're trying to rob the dude of $500 million. The interest alone is over. I think it's like a couple $100,000 a day. It's just egregious, and I do not for the life of me understand how those that hate Donald Trump can't see that the weaponization of the judicial system is going to come for all of us. Eventually it will. I mean, not the people that are within the state. Obviously, they'll be fine. But I'm talking about everybody else, all the people that are voting for these scumbags. It's going to come for us too.
Yeah, I voted for Trump twice.
Did you?
And criticized him heavily when he was in power, and still get called someone who has Trump derangement syndrome, which again, is nonsensical from neoconservatives and all these bureaucratic Beckys that never voted for him or voted for him once. And I'm like, dude, I mean, but also the libertarians weren't giving us much. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing this year, since Clint might be the vice president on the Libertarian Party.
Well, you're gonna have to vote for Trump.
I might vote harder for Donald Trump now than I did before. But no, the Aleppo guy, the Black Lives Matter lady, they were horrible libertarian candidates in both of those elections, and I was like, I can't vote for them. I voted for Donald Trump, and I expected him to do more about this particular topic. But let's be honest here: when you look at his record, you compare it to Barack Obama. Barack Obama did more about immigration than Donald Trump did. And I would argue that based on the statistics that, of course, came out there. You got all these Trump supporters being like, no, but look at the last 2 years. I'm like, you're talking about the lockdown years? You're talking about when travel wasn't allowed anywhere? Like, what are you talking about here? He was involved in some legal battles that he wasn't able to get out of. Sorry, Mike, you look like you have something to say here.
No, I just agree. I'm the same way. I'm voting for him. Not thrilled to be, but I still get told I have Trump derangement syndrome. But these people create Trump supporters. I mean, they call anybody who speaks an unapproved thought a Trump supporter. So they put you in a position where we just cannot allow what's happening, and there's no option but to vote for him. Do I think it'll do much? No, I think he's all talk. He's a complete smokescreen. He's a distraction to keep us not looking at what's actually happening. And I think even if he were to win and get in again, he'll do nothing. It'll be all talk once again.
Oh my God, you're so deranged. Trump is our hero. How could you possibly think
But here's what I don't understand about the Libertarian Party, though. So everyone I know who's in the Libertarian Party, much like Republicans, hate it. So I don't understand. Like, if you want a party that sucks and is horrible and hope to fix things, there's the Republican Party, which sucks and is horrible.
Well, in fairness, many of the people that hate the LP are actually, they're left-leaning. So, like, they would be better suited in the Democrat Party. I think that the divide is that there are many people that are, like, even though they don't want to institutionalize, they either lean more progressive or they lean more conservative within the libertarian banner, and that divide exists with the Libertarian Party as well. I understand the point, though. I mean, there's been theories and this battle has raged for decades, where they've talked about the paleo strategy of trying to infiltrate the GOP and make it more libertarian. And let's be honest, it has worked to a certain extent.
We saw it work with
Rand
New
Paul.
Hampshire and the Free State Project very effectively.
Yeah,
but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, Ron Paul, like Justin Amash, there has been some real legitimate libertarians that have been at the highest levels of federal power, but they have all done it under the GOP banner. So I think that it's kind of like it's a purity test for yourself. You know, can you, like, I personally can't deal with Trump because of what happened in 2020. Like, for me, that is it was so bad that, like, no matter how much better he is than Joe Biden it's not even Joe Biden, it's the entire Democratic establishment that I really despise with every fiber of my being. But it's like, you didn't stop them, dude. And like now you're running on, I'm the guy that's gonna stop these people. I was like, I don't believe you.
If you can't stop hitting the table, Clint, we're going to give you
I thought it would be
gloves
me
here.
gesturing too hard.
And a little
By
bit
the way,
here.
I got a DM from someone who says that they can't hear it on the mic when I'm doing it, but
I can't.
I'll try
we
not
could
to.
hear it reverberate everywhere. But for me, the decision was kind of clear because I was like, oh man, the way that things are shaping up, the way that they kind of weaponized the kind of intelligence agencies against Trump, even though he was trying to appease them and trying to appease the corporate media in some ways. I saw this as, holy cow, Biden's going to tank this economy. He's going to be the perfect puppet. At least we won't get everything we want with Trump, but at least we'll get a really crazy-ish show. At least it's going to be entertaining. At least they're going to be losing their minds more.
I'm over the entertainment. I'm over it. I want someone, but I'm like, I just want issues to be fixed. I feel like it's worse that the fact that he didn't stop them. His people who are so into him still, a lot of his supporters have all these excuses that, he didn't know and he was duped. First of all, I like presidents who don't get duped. Sure. Second of all, it's sort of like
I like soldiers who don't get caught. John McCain, you end up in the Saigon. You're pathetic. Sorry.
But his attacks on John McCain were pretty brutal, and that got my respect. I'll be honest here.
Of course, I love that.
I just love how Meghan McCain is still butthurt. But
she blocked me. I don't even know for why. I might have talked trash on her.
I bet know why.
But yeah.
No, but
Luke is not kind.
I can't shoot my shot anymore.
Luke is not kind to the plus size ladies. Let me tell you.
It would have to be a big shot.
Listen, I have some thoughts about the fats that are not YouTube friendly, that are pretty radical. But I'll share them on Rumble.
But no, Trump, he was elected to stop the communist takeover of America, and it happened on his watch. Vampires can only get you if you invite them in. He invited them in.
That's a great way to put it, and I couldn't agree more. And the real issue is, like, for me, it's not even that he was duped. It's that he hasn't actually come out and said, I was duped. I want to believe that you put Fauci and all of these other scumbags in positions of power and they all manipulated you. But instead, he runs around pretending as if everything he did was perfect and anything that was a mistake wasn't his fault. And it's like, that doesn't fly with me. And I think there's a huge percentage of this country that are on the fence that would probably go to his side if he would just level with us and be like, this is what happened. This is who told me what. This is the reason that I went this path. But he doesn't do any of that. He just says, I saved 20 million lives and it was, the most beautiful thing that we've ever done, and it's ridiculous. It's gaslighting.
Well, now we're stuck with two parties who support it. There will never be accountability. There will never be any acknowledgement. And it's just supposed to be swept under the rug like it never happened. People lost everything. People had their lives destroyed. People died alone. It was just a way of remaking society, and he was on board with it every step of the way.
Our grandmothers perished, well, just literally dying of loneliness while behind saran wrap for years. The last few fleeting moments of their lives spent in utter desperation for no apparent reason, or even worst case scenario, a reason that we can't talk about on this fine platform.
But George Floyd, Our Lady of Fentanyl, got the whole royal wedding treatment.
Some spicy comments there.
Sorry, only for Rumble.
Only for Rumble. But yeah, I mean, the Libertarian Party. I mean, who hates libertarians more than libertarians?
That's right.
As of course now there's a kind of civil war within the Libertarian Party about immigration. Dave Smith is fighting some other guy. I forgot the other guy's name. I met him before.
Don't worry about it.
And
Dave Smith's right, so don't worry about it.
and yeah, I mean, the immigration debate is a very interesting one. I don't know if you want to get into it. Obviously, Clint is on his what's what do you call someone who has concubines? Whoever Clint is,
a sultan?
yeah. So Dave Sultan Smith's concubine, Clint Russell, is obviously on Dave Smith's side. Sorry, I had to work that one out.
It's unfortunate that Dave is right about almost everything, so it's very hard for me to disagree with the guy. I got involved with the Libertarian Party because I was a listener of Dave's for years. I first heard him on Joe Rogan back in 2016, and I was like, oh shit, this is my guy. This is like the young Ron Paul. He unfortunately wasn't able to run, which is why I got in and I'm running for the vice presidential candidacy. But as for the immigration issue, it's very simple. Like, the libertarians don't believe in public property. They think that property ought to all be privatized. Until that is the case, this is the key. Until that is the case, you have to have some reasonable regulations when it comes to public property, because if you don't, it is completely detached from what a private owner would likely do in that scenario. And in this case, what we've seen is, because libertarians advocate for a total hands-off position, not libertarians, but the libertarians who say that public property shouldn't exist, so therefore there can be no regulations because that's additional aggression. What does that amount to? It amounts to homeless drug addicts in parks and public schools and laying in the street, laying on the sidewalks, that have needles hanging out of their arms, and civilization is declining right before our eyes. And I just think that the answer that the libertarians should have in that moment cannot be open borders. It's insane.
Yeah, we can't have open borders and a welfare state. It doesn't really add up. It doesn't really make sense. And one of the biggest critics of open immigration right now is an immigrant himself, Elon Musk, who just took to his own platform and said, quote, "The ability to discard your identification documents from any country, walk across the southern border, and claim asylum has turned America into a refuge for the world's worst criminals," as he quote tweeted, and wokeness, and the Bloomberg article that describes how violent criminality is at an all-time low in Venezuela, a 22-year low, as of course a lot of people have fled Venezuela. Now, I did some on-the-ground reporting in Venezuela, especially during the peak of its kind of crisis, the peak of its kind of demise. And I'll tell you, I'm very lucky to make it alive out of that country. It was absolutely insane to see just how much economic devastation failed fiscal government policies could cause on local populations that left a lot of innocent, law-abiding citizens literally running for their lives in many instances, as police officers weren't there at all to protect them and literally told you, you're at a red light, don't even stop. Just keep going, especially at night, since the likelihood of you getting carjacked is extremely freaking high. A lot of those people who, of course, were around that criminality, a lot of the people who were those criminals, who, by the way, had a huge abandoned freaking skyscraper in the middle of town that they kidnapped people to and extorted their families for money to. A lot of them, let's just be honest here, if you're one of those people, you're seeing a situation where you could get into the United States, you could get a free airplane ticket, you could get a free bus ticket, you get free lunch, dinner, breakfast, you get a free hotel, you get a debit card from New York City. Hell yeah, I'm taking that opportunity, especially if I get a second chance. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of those opportunistic individuals came to the United States, and now we're dealing with the larger kind of ramifications of it, which is pretty freaking serious. And is Elon Musk hyperbolic for describing these people as the world's worst criminals? I don't think so, from what I saw in Venezuela. Now, are these people here in the United States? I think so. What do you guys think?
I disagree a little bit. I think the world's worst criminals are actually the Democrat politicians that allow the borders to be open and allow them all to come here.
Well, let me correct Mike. It's actually bipartisan. It's just the
True.
American political class are the worst criminals. But yeah, go ahead. I mean, I think that it's obviously true that there has been a record-setting year after year illegal immigration flood into America. And I think that if you actually look deeply enough into it, it's quite clear that it's a United Nations and NGO funded operation that's being ran. It has been run on the rest of Europe for the past decade plus, and you've already seen the civilizational issues that they're dealing with as a consequence. So this is why, Dave Smith and myself and a handful of others in the libertarian community have gone to bat on this issue and tried to kind of course correct what we think is a very misguided perspective and policy proposition when it comes to open borders. I think that open borders in this moment, given that this is actually a government funded, we're literally being robbed to be invaded. And your answer is good. No, your answer is I don't want to be robbed, but the invasion's fine. I'm sorry, that can't be the answer either. So I think that people really need to wake up to the nefarious nature of this. It is not organic. You don't go from 300 or 400,000 people annually. My entire life, that's what the figures were, and now they've 10x'd, and you think that's organic? You're tripping.
Yeah, my time in Venezuela was very eye-opening, to say the least, because you saw the government incentivize policies that spurred on criminality, that kind of promoted it, that allowed people to get away with it. There was huge signs everywhere saying, do not bring your firearm into this place. Do not dare smoke a cigarette anywhere near this place. And everyone wasn't listening to any of that, as of course the criminals were running loose. The criminals that were tied into the same kind of political ideology as the Venezuelan government was able to get away with a lot more than individuals who, of course, didn't believe in the same political ideology. And we saw the weaponization of the justice system in Venezuela. We saw rampant criminality that was normalized by the state. And now we have crazy situations where, again, I met a lot of Venezuelans during my trip. Some of them were salt of the earth, amazing human beings that were some of the realest people that I met in my life. And then some of the people that I met, was around, you could just kind of see. I remember this one specific guy that I was around. You just felt the energy of death around him. You looked in his eyes and you're like, this guy took people's lives, and he does it, and he's gleeful about it, and he's happy about it. And I was like, wow, it was like an out-of-body experience just walking around Venezuela with my kind of hired help. We hired some gang members to walk us around and protect us with their I can't give up too much of the details here, but
I've had similar experiences in South Central Los Angeles. This is not just a Venezuela thing. There's
running into a Becky or Karen getting her donuts is not the same, okay, Clint?
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about I had to go and
go to a muffin shop.
No, I had to go evict people from the hood. Not a good idea looking how I
do you
look.
evict people from the hood?
Clint Russell, confirmed slumlord. You heard it here first. Yeah, what were the techniques there? What were you using?
Well, actually, I was going around offering cash for keys. I was trying to negotiate to avoid having the sheriffs come and have to, potentially violently evict people. But they did not like to have conversations with me, so I got out of there about as fast as I could. But many of the foreclosures I had to manage were not in that area, but that area in particular was absolutely horrifying. When I drove down the street, I heard people going whoop whoop, like they knew I was 5-0 or something. Like right away, they thought I was some undercover cop. It was crazy, man.
You do look like a cop. You were hanging outside of that donut shop a lot, so it does make sense. And that's usually a watering hole for all the police officers.
Most of Luke's jokes are just mean. That was actually pretty good.
But we have this story coming from the Gazette talking about how Venezuelan immigrants are now demanding people on social media pay the legal fees of a Times Square shooter suspect. This, as a social media Venezuelan star took to social media and asked the Venezuelan people to unite and put up money to pay the legal fees of a 15-year-old who, of course, is a suspect in a shooting in Times Square. So this is a very similar story to what we talked about a couple days ago, where the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl celebration that was also interrupted by another shooter also had a GoFundMe associated to the main suspect in the crime there, which shows you just how brazen criminality is becoming freaking normalized here in the United States. And it's something that, of course, slowly and surely happened in Venezuela. And all the hallmarkers are there to, of course, this happening here in the United States, but 10 times worse, as of course, there's a lot of other things at stake here that are a lot more detrimental to the general public.
It's amazing how they're allowed to do that when it's a shooting that's approved by the regime. Because remember, they took down Kyle Rittenhouse's GoFundMe and all that. It's amazing that there's no shame with these people in wanting to raise money and having GoFundMes for murderers. The only words that come to mind are "go fund yourself."
Well, I mean, this is a very easy comparison or analogy or extrapolation from the border issue. Most libertarians believe that policing ought to be privatized. But the answer in the interim is not to legalize murder. You know, it's like we want to have private police because we want to have liability. We want to have, easier control to hire and fire people. Obviously, public unions are a catastrophe. But the answer cannot be that you abolish the police and you also forbid the option for private policing. You have to have some sort of transition plan. And I think that what we're witnessing right now is essentially a push to abolish the police with no fallback plan. Like, we're just going to stop enforcing violent crime laws, property crime laws, but simultaneously we're going to weaponize the judicial system to go after political opposition. And you think that that's going to create a world that anybody wants to live in? I mean, it's going to be super dangerous. People are really sleeping on how quickly these cities could just literally implode on themselves, like Mad Max.
Oh, they are.
Well, you can speak to it better than I can.
Yeah, I escaped. I think I've been in Florida about 3 weeks now. I moved out. I was born in New York City, lived there my whole life. It's unbelievable. I never thought I would want to live anywhere else. I used to love it, but it is just a fallen state now. It's insane. And it's not even just the things that you would think of, like the crime, the homelessness. Everyone is so demoralized. Everyone looks down. Everyone avoids each other. They did what Al-Qaeda couldn't do. They destroyed New York.
Are their eyes down to the ground because they're afraid of just like interacting with someone that might hurt them, or what is the...
No, New York City always had this
miserable.
kind of reputation of not looking people in the eyes when you're in like public transportation.
My
and
stepdad grew up in New York, and he told me, like, do not look at any of the homeless people in the eyes, and I think it was probably good advice.
That's when they get activated through your energy. And they're like, he has money. Let's go get him. He eats well.
No, everyone there is just so miserable and demoralized, and it really is lawless. It's unbelievable. Especially, there's no such thing as any sort of working class there. It's just very rich people and very poor people. Tell you one story. So the apartment I was living in, the landlord at one point decided he wanted to sell the building. So he just decided that for everyone in the building, he was going to just shut off the heat, the hot water, the gas. I had videos of him stealing my mail. He took a scissor, cut the wires to my Wi-Fi. I had to fight for a year in court to no avail. There are just no laws. Laws aren't being enforced.
Why'd you cut his internet off, Clint? That was not nice, okay? All right, I know you had to evict poor people.
He was the scary guy that said whoop whoop when I came down the street.
Yeah, except it was in like hot pants.
They were in the Lower East Side, so that explains a lot. But Elon Musk said more about this particular topic, as of course, another thing that he tweeted just a couple hours ago is this tweet saying, in case you think the floods of illegals is only affecting big cities, quote tweeting Aaron Sidebarum, who said, what does the migrant crisis look like in practice? The population of a small Midwestern town jumping by 10% in just 2 years. Police overwhelmed by domestic violence calls, dead babies stuffed into cardboard boxes, an uptick in STDs in public schools, and of course, a crushing budget hole, as he specifically quoted a Washington Free Beacon article that is titled, The Border Crisis Hits a Small Wisconsin Town. Yeah. Some people say this is hyperbolic. Some people say this is sensationalistic. But from everything that we're looking at, I think this is pretty true.
I think it's an understatement.
Yeah, I mean, I I think that there's probably certain towns and cities where it is being overstated. You might have very, very mild migration from someone who grew up in San Diego, or you're from New York, or we're all from places where there's been a lot of immigration. So I would imagine that there are some towns that are experiencing immigration for the first time in a very long time, and they're panicking. This has been a consistent issue in most cities in America for a very long time, and I think that it's obviously been exacerbated as the flood has 10x'd. I mean, you're not making up these numbers. I'm not guessing at this. This is the low estimate. This is what the federal government is saying. 3 million plus annually is expected over the next 12 months. It's just flatly not sustainable. And this is why I'm so frustrated with the open border libertarian types, because I just think that you are absolutely dooming yourself to have everyone in this country look at you like you're a crazy person, because their lives are being uprooted because job competition is skyrocketing. Cost for housing to purchase or to rent is skyrocketing, particularly in these towns. I'm not talking about every town, but I'm talking about the ones that have the migrant flood. Of course, these people are going to become very nativistic and very concerned about it. And if you ignore them, it's going to turn into real deep-seated racism too, which if you're not a fan of, I would encourage you to have the right answer right now.
Someone in the chat room just wrote, try that in a small town, LOL. And yeah, that phrase didn't really work out for a lot of the Midwestern types, as the article goes on and says, quote, responding to the influx of migrants has put the town in a $400,000 budget hole. A town official speaking on conditions of anonymity told the Free Beacon, as of course he's likely petrified of the Venezuelan gangs that are going to come to his home if he speaks out against the larger immigration problems happening here in the United States.
Let's also say, I mean, if you're going to have essentially lawlessness in terms of the police standing down when it comes to enforcing property crimes and things like that, that is very ripe for what the Italian mafia came in and dealt with. They offered businesses protection. This is where protection rackets come from. So I would not be surprised if you start to see, instead of the Italian mafia being, the leaders of New York, you could see some of the Mexican cartels they're taking.
We need to bring back the Italian mafia. They kept things in line.
Legitimately, they are better than the New York government at this point.
They're better than all governments, I would say. At least they gave people a fair chance to actually survive. They made sure that when they took the extortion money, they took just enough so you could still keep going. Right. The government doesn't do that. The New York City government has no absolute care or consideration for your personal well-being, as perfectly demonstrated by all their policies, as even the NYPD has released a statement that they're worried about a mega super gang coming together in New York City with many rival gangs who are making deals together, who are saying we're going to be working together, as that situation makes perfect sense, because why wouldn't you do that, especially in a lawless place where anyone who defends themselves, they're going to go to jail. They're going to be the next white guy that's going to get in trouble. Yeah, I'm going to do what the hell I want. Why wouldn't you? Because you're allowing it to happen.
I haven't even heard about that story, and I just guessed at it exactly. Yes, of course, these cartels are going to band together and deal with the lawlessness by becoming the law themselves. I'm sure it's already happening to a certain extent.
And the police just completely have their tails tucked between their legs. With the last story, though, I've been wondering for so long how it is possible that people who are, I guess you would say, on the right or not part of, the status quo of the people pushing this, how they are possibly so complacent. And my only theory is maybe some of them are in red states and think they're removed from it. Well, look right here. Whatever is happening now in blue cities, that is just one step ahead of what's coming to red states.
I'm trying to find out the article, because I remember reading about it about 2 weeks ago. But it does make sense, because why wouldn't you take advantage of this particular situation? And
this is exactly what they did in Mexico, Luke. They saw a weak government and they said, we're now the government. Okay. And I mean, this is why I'm really concerned about the trajectory of this country, because once people are dealing with that, I'm not saying a lot of people are just going to walk themselves right into the boxcars, but a lot of people are going to go the opposite direction. They're going to say, give me, not Donald Trump.
Stop hitting the table.
They're going to say, don't give me Donald Trump. Give me a hard right Donald Trump. And once we go there, It's a brutal time to swing back.
Yeah, too much government is signaling more problems for the people of the United States. And I don't care if it's on the left. I don't care if it's on the right. My Polish roots are automatically allergic to any kind of government. And hey, I was an immigrant myself, but I went through the legal process. I got naturalized. I did everything like I was supposed to. But now a lot of people don't have that opportunity, mainly because the courts are overrun. A lot of the people are being just denied the ability to do so, and what we're incentivizing is the illegal action of crossing into the United States without proper identification and without following the kind of laws. So clearly, automatically, these people coming in are committing a crime. So knowing that, they're probably going to be denied access to work. They're going to be denied access to places to live. And why wouldn't they turn to a life of crime, since that might be the only way that they could survive? And if you're someone from, let's just say, Venezuela, let's just say someone who was previously in crimes or gangs before, why wouldn't you organize and try to, of course, help these people out, but also more importantly, help themselves out in the same time? As of course, we have the article here by ABC 15 that describes the worry about specifically a migrant super gang, specifically with Venezuelan super gangs' presence in New York City expanding and them recruiting more people who come into the United States. As of course, everyone is highlighting the pictures and the videos of when those migrants beat up two New York City police officers in Times Square. And that just shows you the kind of trajectory that we are on and the serious concerns and issues that I think are only going to be becoming more serious and more of a concern for everyone as they're just trying to live their freaking lives. And it's becoming a lot more difficult to do so. As of course, I believe even the numbers are skewed here because everyone keeps talking about the official numbers, 2 million people. Well, those are the people that were counted. What about the people who haven't been counted? What about the people who, of course, walked through the border, met their coyotes, met their fellow gang members, met their fellow human traffickers, and weren't accounted for and ended up in a major city, as the number of illegals living in the United States is probably significantly underreported, and the number is probably a lot higher than we even know it to be.
Magnitudes higher. I mean, it just having grown up in San Diego, I can promise you they're lying. They're absolutely lying. And for the record, a lot of great people. I think the vast majority of migrants to America are great people.
Some I assume are good people.
Some I assume are good people. But the issue is that obviously if you're not vetting this at all, which is essentially what's happening, like you will vet. Some of the people will self-report and they'll come up and they'll go through whatever sort of background check that you require of them. Many of them, though, when your policy is essentially just a conveyor belt of humanity into this country, they're going to say, well, if they do a background check, I'm a violent felon from, El Salvador or whatever. I'm not going to do that. But I have this entire community of people that will, give me housing and shelter for the time being, and so I could start up my drug trade in the States. And many of these are connected to drug organizations that exist in Latin America and throughout the world. It just has to be stopped at some point. And it feels as if there's really no political will to do so. And the GOP is in on it. The GOP is not really interested in addressing this, as far as I can tell.
Well, there are some actions and moves being made in the Senate right now, as some top Republicans are going after Joe Biden, and they're bringing up the death of Lakeland Riley, which was a 22-year-old woman that was killed by an illegal migrant. And now the Senate is demanding that the GOP specifically does a call to action to divert $15 billion from the IRS and to dedicate it to the southern border, a plan that, hey, I kind of like it, especially during tax season. Yeah, I really like that. Yes, won't. Please, can we do this?
I just don't know why it's not more. Why isn't it $100 billion? Take the entire funding of the IRS and then just put it towards the border.
Take all the IRS agents right now and put them along the southern border now, and they get paid for everyone they apprehend. I would love
make them coyotes
to see that as, of course, $15 billion, a drop in the bucket, but a lot of it is being dedicated towards upgrading the IRS.
Well, according to Trump, though, that was more than he was requesting to complete the wall. I think he said he only needed $10 billion. So. $15 billion is not a drop in the bucket.
They're
when it
not
comes
going to do
the
anything.
immigration
They're not
issue.
going to lift a finger. They're either in on it or just completely castrated.
Yeah,
They just do
or they don't
nothing.
have the numbers. I'm sure there's some of them that are true believers, but the vast majority are in there to try and maintain their position of power. And obviously, the establishment, McConnell and Lindsey Graham and these people, they couldn't care less. It is about the next payday, the next war, the next constitutional violation. These people do not care about us whatsoever. And this is, I think, that's the main reason that most libertarians don't get involved with the GOP is that we look at that and we go like, that's not reformable. Like, the Lindsey Grahams and the McConnells of the world they hang on to power for 40, 50 years. They rob the American people blind. They lead us into disastrous wars. They skyrocket the deficit. They literally witness the evisceration of the Bill of Rights, and they couldn't care less. They're just the worst human beings on the planet, and they get elected over and over and over again. It's heartbreaking.
Who are these people that keep voting for them is what I don't understand.
Tell me. I don't know. I don't know how they keep getting reelected. It's amazing.
And I feel like there are a handful of people in the GOP who are elected that at least claim to have the right views, but even they do nothing. Even they are all talk. What happened to, do you remember? Maybe it's because I was know-nothing Democrat at the time. Now I'm just a know-nothing Republican. But at the time, I used to look at these neocon Republicans and think, wow, they get things done. Like the Bush, Cheney types. They were evil bastards, but when they wanted something, they damn well got it.
When
They
it came
would
to destroying the Constitution,
Yeah.
they were really great at that.
They were. Dick Cheney shot a guy, and the guy apologized to him.
In the
So,
face.
yes.
In the face.
So I'm like, if we could just get a party that has like libertarian, populist kind of ideas, but neocon balls, we'd be unstoppable.
See, this is the issue, though. It's not about the balls. It's about who benefits. The reason that these guys get these things put through, the reason that the war on terror and all of that was successful, regardless of how absolutely deeply immoral it was, is because it grew the size of the state and it benefited their donor class. That's the reason that persisted my entire adult life. And I don't know how you make it financially beneficial to do the right thing. You know, like there's basically, I think this is the reason that we only have usually one or two guys that are in power at a time that have my principles, like Thomas Massey or Ron Paul, is because all of the libertarians that are dispersed throughout the entire country, we will fund their reelection, but we can't compete in terms of funding 250 congressional representatives to go up against the funding of the BlackRocks and the Lockheed Martin and the Boeings of the world.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. We don't need more money for the IRS. We're good. We don't
Yeah.
need more money for audits that have been politically targeting individuals under the Obama administration and probably are doing the same under the Biden administration. We don't need any of that. We're okay. We're fine.
Trump says he's going to build them a big new beautiful building.
Well, that's the FBI.
Oh, excuse me.
So this is specifically about the IRS. With
I honestly don't know which is more dangerous at this point, the IRS or the FBI.
They're
it's
they're
gotten
both
pretty bad.
pretty dangerous for the Republic, to say the least. But this senator, Tim Scott, who brought forward this plan, specifically saying, hey, the IRS is supposed to be getting $15 billion. Let's just send it up to the border. Let's just send it up for border protection and a wall. And hey, I really like this plan. I think this is a good plan. I think we definitely need to get this idea out there to the general public. And I think the more we start talking about it, the more it could be something that could become something that could be likely. As of course, let's be honest here. Congress has failed the American people time in and time again. But when it comes to this latest military-industrial complex budget deal for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, Congress actually stopped a lot of very nefarious big military-industrial complex spending that they previously would have approved. So shouts out to Matt Gaetz. Shouts out to, I can't believe I'm saying this, the Speaker of the House for making this right move here. And shouts out to this guy, Tim Scott, for actually standing his ground and saying specifically, hey, the IRS, they're not getting that $15 billion. We want to send it to help out the U.S. border and actually have some real legitimate border security. So shouts out to these guys, as of course Biden and Trump are both going to be in Texas on the border this Thursday as this immigration issue becomes more and more of an issue. As the corporate media, the Democrats don't really like people realizing what's really going on here, but they can't ignore it anymore. With Biden coming to the border, Do you think he's there to save face? What is this even going to achieve, as he's pretty much going to be looking at a crime scene that he committed, and he's going to be standing on it for some reason?
I hate to say it. I think that plan will only be used if Mitch McConnell ever runs out of toilet paper. That's where that plan is going to go. They won't do anything with it.
I don't follow that one, but I will say it's obviously, as Luke alluded to, yes, Biden is going down there to try and point the finger at the GOP and say, this is because the GOP refused to fund our defense spending bill. I'm going to stop hitting the table, but it's very important. I'm trying to be impactful with my words here. That's the whole argument, is that they tried to package this defense spending bill that included Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan with a pittance and a nonsensical policy for the border that should have never even been on the table, and screw the GOP Senate for ever putting that up. What a disastrous bill that was. But what the Mitch McConnells of the world did, is they handed the Democrats an argument. They gave them a defense, because they proposed it, they got it through the Senate, and then it died in the House. And because of that, now it allows Biden to go down to the border and say, I tried, but Congress didn't want to do anything. It's a terrible argument, but it'll work on the people that don't know anything.
As if we don't have years of Biden and Eric Adams and every one of these Democrats saying, come here, Nancy Pelosi, we're a nation of immigrants. Remember when Trump had some sort of, when it was a travel ban, they're like, the Statue of Liberty is crying tonight. They were promoting open borders for years, and now we're just supposed to forget all that.
Yep. And many people will.
We're gonna get you a Fisher Price desktop where you hit it and funny sounds come out of it.
Can I have one? Can I have one with a mirror so I can stare at myself and?
I would like that.
The mirror's right behind you. We put it there for a reason, for your vanity. As of course, we have some Rumble rants that we should get to right now. We got one from Bill Dozer 74 saying, only 12K left to go until Clint gets tased for 4 hours straight, guys. Share the stream.
Is this like for your OnlyFans?
Wait, share the stream. Spread the word of the electrified gay man known as Clint. Thank you, Bill Dozer. And you're correct. We're only 12,000 followers away on Rumble until Clint gets tasered for 5 hours on camera. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be incredible.
This is really hurtful, because I know that Bill Dozer is one of my people because of his name. So like, you shouldn't want to hurt me, dude. I'm one of you. So this is personal now. It's war, Bill Dozer. It's war.
It's going to be worth it once we reach 100,000 subscribers, and then Clint gets tasered. We got another Rumble rant from Crash Bandit, who said someone covered today that violent crime in Venezuela is going down and U.S. crime is going dot. That's the Rumble rant.
The Venezuelans are committing it here.
I think that's the argument, exactly.
Or district attorneys are just deciding not to do their jobs, and they're saying, "Hey, if you commit crimes, that's going to be fine." Well, someone in the YouTube chat just gave us a brilliant idea to get a shock collar, and that would be activated with every super chat. I think that is a brilliant idea.
Some people are into that.
And
this dude watches cam girls. That's a cam girl idea.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Did they really do that?
Yeah, like when they send money, it'll go.
And how do you know that, Clint?
I've seen memes of it.
You read the articles.
I've seen memes of it. I've never seen it myself. I'm not a degenerate.
And
like you, Mike Harlow.
And then the cam girls get tasered every time there's like a super chat.
It's a different device, Luke.
Oh, you dirty man.
Just a few little jolts, you dilly whacker.
This is why we need to punish him for his impurities. We need Seamus Coughlin to come here in like full religious garb. we need holy water. He needs to have like the kind of religious. What do they wear? The priests,
the gowns,
the hoods. Yeah, we're gonna have literally Seamus putting holy water on you as you get tasered with a shock collar every time we get a super chat.
Ben,
so
we could probably get rich if we just let me suffer terribly every show, but I can't permit it. I'm sorry.
It'll be fine. It'll be
okay.
It'll be okay. We got another YouTube super chat from I'm Not Your Buddy Guy saying, you have to pick one. Which is the greatest threat? A, woke people. B, China. C, terrorism. D, globalists. E, the Fed. F, The poles shifting or G, Russia? Great question. I am not your buddy guy. I would say probably the Fed. I've seen economic devastation caused in Zimbabwe, in Venezuela. I've seen it all over Latin America. I've seen it all over Africa. And holy frickin' cow, when the value of your money starts to literally disappear, the time you're in a freaking grocery store as the prices go up, the time you're literally shopping for items, that right there, as people are literally eating their pets, as they're eating rats, as there's no freaking food, I would say that right there is the biggest danger, according to my opinion. What about you guys? We'll go around the room and everyone with Steph will pick their greatest threat. Again, it's woke people, China, terrorism, globalists, the Fed, pole shifting, or Russia. Go ahead, Clint.
Well, assuming the polls are shifting, I have no idea if that's true, but I'll just piggyback off of what Luke was
The
saying.
polls are shifting. Get ready.
I'll piggyback off of Luke because this is obviously true, that it's the Fed. And let me extrapolate, because it's not just the suffering of people as they deal with hyperinflation. It's also an entire century of total war. I mean, there's been 100 million plus people that have perished because of central banking. Central banking enabled the state to grow by magnitudes that it had never been capable of doing in the past, because they suddenly had the capacity to print money and set interest rate policy, which enabled them to then deficit spend and go to total war, multiple world wars, as well as the American empire, which is responsible for millions of innocent deaths over just my lifetime alone. So we're talking immense human suffering that And also, because of that, our culture has declined. And because of that, you have many of those issues that you're detailing, including wokeness and communism and all that.
That's a good answer.
This is why I'm running for office, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm tempted to say globalism. However, I kind of feel like in this country, at least, the biggest problem is compliance. So I think I'm going to have to go with woke people, because they are the ones who comply and bend over and take it and allow all of this to spread. The tyranny in 2020, if there would have been some sort of mass uprising, if just the people who voted for Trump or just the people who were against it would have put their money where their mouth is and taken action, gone on strike, and not tolerated this, it would have been done in a weekend. So I think the people who comply and allow all of this to spread are kind of the biggest threat.
And they have moral certitude that they're righteous too, which is really scary.
That is a bad combination.
Yeah. Being wrong and thinking you're 100% righteous and moral is really scary.
Absolutely. Steph, do you want to give us your answer? What do you think is the biggest threat out there?
Sure. I haven't heard much about the poles shifting, but I'm going to piggy off that one and be like, okay, some sort of natural disaster. I feel like all the other options are already kind of happening. Those are already like things that are just going to happen no matter what. But I feel like one of the biggest threats is something that you can't, unless you're prepared, that's a big threat. Like, you need to know what to do in case something is going to happen. And I feel like that's one I would pick.
Such a Florida answer.
There's been a lot of floods, resets, that kind of stuff. I feel like that's something that's coming. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
All right, we'll see if that happens. We got another Rumble, not a Rumble. We got a YouTube super chat from Brian Forsaken as the world crumbles, Portland, Oregon, who says deep in the trenches. I don't know what that is in reference to, but of course we have another article here from The Squad, specifically Rashida Tlaib, that now is proposing that homeless people in America under 30 should be given $1,400 a month for 3 years in a program that could cost up to $180 billion. Mike looks like he's in favor of this policy and can't be enthusiastic enough for it, as of course this is the fiscal irresponsibility that will lead to utter chaos, the destruction of the U.S. petrodollar, its hegemony, and its purchasing power, which is in question here, as of course the government literally prints money out of thin air. Who are these homeless people going to be? Well, probably illegal migrants. Probably it's going to be a lot more than $180 billion. As we saw, the government can't even hand out checks to every American in an efficient way. They can't even do that right.
Well, think too, this is exactly what the Democrats' entire game plan is. They get these kids to, like he's saying it's going to be the illegal immigrants. No. It's going to be the Democrat voters. It's going to be the kids that go to college. They live off of student loans. They then come out of college. They can't afford anywhere to live because rent prices are so astronomical because of the central bank and because of the printing that happened, including the lockdowns in 2020. And then you're going to offer them $1,400 if they're homeless. So they're all going to just say, I'm homeless. I can't afford to pay my student loans. So then you end up with a cradle to grave social safety net, which ultimately debases the U.S. dollar and destroys the greatest country on earth.
When you incentivize negative behavior, you will get more negative behavior. It's not desirable to have
fascinating how that works, huh?
Yeah, it's not desirable to have people being homeless. And also, what you said is so true. Shouldn't there be like some kind of law against bribing voters financially?
Yes, and in fact, it was some of our founders. I think may have been Thomas Jefferson that said that our nation will stand until people realize that they can vote themselves largesse from the state or something like that. And he's absolutely right. The American people have gone away from personal responsibility and wanting the state to leave them the F alone so that they can produce and become independently wealthy. And now they just have basically given up and they say, "Give me more. Give me more."
You shouldn't have the right to give away people's money that is not yours. Like that's essentially what these people are trying to implement. This kind of soft version of a UBI, as of course the government wants people dependent on them. They want people to, of course, rely on them, to need them, because when that happens, then of course you have good consumers. You have good citizens that, of course, won't rebel, won't question you, and will be good, obedient little slaves. That's essentially what the government is doing here, all under the guise of helping young homeless people, when in reality they're going to be creating a whole lot more of it.
But to the tune of millions. And keep in mind too, this was the what was it called? The New Deal under FDR. It was supposed to be just limited government expansion, and it was only favored by the Democratic Party when it came to Social Security, and then obviously it grew upon itself. It became Medicare, Medicaid, all these other social safety net programs. But now, when you see a so-called fiscal conservative Republican that's running for office, they don't talk about cutting those programs either. So extrapolate 10, 20 years down the road. Once the Democrats have already, dominated the political establishment by offering UBI to the Democrat voters, then 20 years from now, the GOP will be defending UBI, saying we can't possibly cut that. There'll be people starving in the streets, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, the state only grows. It doesn't shrink.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane to see this kind of a larger, bastardized way of thinking where these people think Rashida Tlaib, I do believe, legitimately thinks, I'm going to help people. But she doesn't understand by her actions, she's literally causing huge amounts of devastating action on all the people who would be willing to work, who would be willing to, of course, pay for themselves, to put themselves up by their bootstraps. And she's saying, no. We're just going to take more money from all the hardworking individuals, and we're going to give it to people who, of course, are incentivized to be on the streets, to be homeless. As, of course, why wouldn't you do this? As, of course, this is something that we are already seeing normalized in places like Oregon, in places like California, where homelessness is the new norm. You're seeing tent cities all across the United States, mainly, I would say, because of Big Pharma. I can't say too much about that yet because we're still on YouTube, but also because of all these policies that incentivized it. You look at what happened to beautiful places like Venice. You look at what happened to so many amazing places where people used to live, people used to congregate, people used to just enjoy themselves. Now filled with bedlam, filled with crime, filled with drugs, filled with STDs, filled with just some of the grotesque, most nastiest, most disgusting behavior. And that's normalized. The American people are not doing good. We're not doing well. And these policies would only make people far off worse, since the government would be taking more of their money and redistributing it to, of course, the people who would be doing the most destructive policies to themselves and to this country.
I've got to connect this dot one more time, but this all comes back to public property. Because libertarians, including myself, believe in full drug legalization, that you should not throw human beings in cages because they want to use drugs. That does not mean that you get to go onto public property and do drugs and sleep there and set up a tent and just live there for the rest of your life. That's total insanity. So, but because you're not differentiating, you're not saying that this is impermissible. If you want to be a productive member of society that has an apartment, has a house, and wants to go and do drugs on your weekends, that's totally okay. But you can't be doing it in a public, playground or whatever. That's how civilization collapses. And what will be the consequence? You're already seeing it. People are saying, on the conservative side who had grown much more open to the concept of drug legalization. They're now looking at the examples in Oregon and San Francisco, and they're saying this has been a proven disaster. No, it hasn't been actually. The disaster has been that you permitted people to do drugs in public. That is the mistake. It's really important that people understand why these policies are failing. If you stop enforcing violent crime or public drug use or drunkenness or any of these other things that ultimately collapse civilization, well then, yeah, of course people are going to come to the wrong conclusion. But you have to connect all of the dots to really understand.
It's horrible in New York. Like the area I grew up in, for example, on the Upper West Side, it used to be a beautiful area. Now it's just tents, abandoned buildings. There are homeless people who have mattresses lined up.
Yeah, man.
Did you guys hear in New York?
New York City always smelled like pee. Now it smells like double the pee. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mike, go ahead.
Did you guys see in New York? They started putting out vending machines with crack pipes in them on public property, and surprise, surprise, it sold out overnight.
Yeah, people are going to do more crack when you give them crack.
By
pipes.
drug dealers who literally bought it for cheap and then sold it for a profit. Now that's
Gee.
the entrepreneurial spirit. That, of course,
Yeah.
we are going to be talking about more extensively on Rumble. As of course, this conversation will now be leaving Twitter. It will be leaving Facebook. It will be leaving Kick. It will be leaving YouTube, and finally, we will be able to talk freely to you on rumble.com. If you want to find us, just go to rumble.com, and we are right on the front page, the first selection of the picks here. As of course, we have a super chat that I'm going to read right as we transition off to Rumble. We have some music we're going to be playing, and we're going to be simulating what Puppet Roleplay just told us to do. So stay tuned for that.
Excuse me?
There's you'll understand.
Now we got a show.
There's a lot of very spicy stuff that we can't talk about here on YouTube. So now please go to rumble.com, where the conversation is going to be a lot more free, a lot more interesting, a lot more entertaining, as also we will be taking unscripted callers from Luke Unfiltered members in about 30 minutes. If you are a member, Josh, just spam it in the chat room right now. Sign up and tell me right now in the chat room that you want to call in, and I will be picking on you, and you guys will be calling in about 30 minutes from now. Mike, where can people find you before we move over to Rumble?
You can find me on the Twix, X, Twitter, whatever the kids are calling it, at Not Mike Harlow. I was banned so many times I had to be not Mike for a while, but I think I can maybe let it be known I might be Mike at this point. Or my YouTube channel. Check out my show Microaggressed. It's just Mike Harlow on YouTube. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We've still got a whole half of the show that,
And it's the spicy
that you
version.
could actually be free, and you could actually say what you want, all on rumble.com. Front page, we're on the picks, so go there right now.
At Liberty Lock Pod on X, got 125,000. I don't know. There's a lot. And I appreciate you guys, each and every one of you. You're beautiful human beings. Not all of you, actually. Some of you say mean things to me, and I don't like you, and I don't appreciate you. But for those that are nice, at Liberty Lock Pod, subscribe there or follow both. Liberty Lockdown's the show. Dropped a new episode last night. Got a new one coming out tomorrow night as well. Do not miss that. Find it on YouTube, but it's suspended there because God hates me. So go to Rumble, go to Apple Podcasts. And while you're there, make sure you enter into your phone the best political show. You subscribe to Liberty Lockdown and the best political show, and you never miss an episode because you're our number one fan, and we love you very much.
Steph's going to be talking about her DMs that she opened up to our audience on Rumble too, right, Steph?
Yeah, it's going to be a really short conversation. So you can find me on Steph WeAreChange on Instagram, and don't message me.
What did Clay? I
message me.
I can't wait. I can't wait. As of course, we got another super chat from YouTube before we officially go off YouTube. I want to read your super chat as we're going to be role playing this in a little bit here. As we got a super chat from Puppet Roleplay that said, "Hey Luke, can you please play Eddie Grant song Electric Avenue when you shock Clint?"